You've ever heard of Edgar Cayce, the man who made over 14,000 predictions and got them right with an almost eerie accuracy? What would you say if I told you that his most impressive predictions are coming true right now, at this very moment in Egypt? What we're about to reveal in this video might completely change the way you think about ancient history, spirituality, and the future of humanity. Get ready for a journey that challenges everything you thought you knew about our origins and our fate. If these revelations strike a chord with you, don't miss a single second of this video. Hit that like button right away and turn on notifications, because what we're going to share over the next few weeks goes far beyond what the mainstream media dares to show. Edgar Cayce wasn't just another con man chasing fame. He was a simple guy, photographed and documented by hundreds of skeptical doctors and scientists who, after witnessing his abilities, became his biggest advocates for his mysterious gift. In a deep trance, Cayce accessed what he called the Akashic records, a kind of cosmic library holding all the information about the universe, past, present, and future. The most impressive part: while most psychics give vague predictions that can be read in different ways, Cayce offered specific details, dates, names, and exact coordinates. One of his most detailed and controversial predictions was about a monumental discovery in Egypt set for 2025. In the area beneath the right paw of the Sphinx, a chamber will be found that leads to an underground temple containing records of the Atlantean civilization. This discovery will revolutionize our understanding of human history and reveal technologies that have been lost for millennia, he declared back in 1932. He described not just the location, but also the details inside. Powerful crystals, devices that enable long-distance thought communication, and documents explaining how human consciousness can go beyond physical limits. For decades, archaeologists and historians brushed these words off as fantasy. Until now, in January of this year, an international team using ground-penetrating radar discovered a significant anomaly exactly where Cayce had pointed out, a sealed chamber untouched for thousands of years. What happened next forced the Egyptian government to impose a total blackout on the information, a situation that still continues today. Witnesses say that after the initial discovery, archaeologists and engineers worked day and night for 3 consecutive weeks. Then the military cordoned off the area, removed all the researchers, and made them sign confidentiality agreements under threat of prison. 4 of the scientists who were involved in the early digs have mysteriously disappeared, while others flat out refused to comment. What did they find that required such tight secrecy? Why have authorities from several countries, including officials from the US, Russia, and China, visited the site on secret missions in the weeks afterward? Were they so afraid the rest of the world might learn? One informant, who worked on the site's security and will remain anonymous for obvious reasons, revealed disturbing details. He said, "We found technology that couldn't possibly exist. There's no logical explanation for what we saw. It was like we were peering into our future instead of our past." And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Cayce also predicted that this discovery would come along with geological and magnetic changes on the planet that would even alter human consciousness. What's even scarier is that recent scientific data confirms magnetic anomalies in the Egyptian region that have never been seen before, starting back in December of last year, right when the first expedition to check out the anomaly under the Sphinx kicked off. Now, some might wonder, but didn't Cayce say these discoveries would happen between 1996 and 1998? How is it happening in 2025? This is a key point that most people misunderstood. When Cayce was in a trance, he often used time references from ancient times. Historians and linguists who have studied his transcripts came to the conclusion that he wasn't referring to the Gregorian calendar, but to ancient solar cycles. Dr. Mikhail Rostov, an expert in ancient chronologies at St. Petersburg University, explains, when we convert the dates Cayce mentioned into our current calendar, taking into account the necessary adjustments and the precessional cycles he often talked about, we end up with 2024 to 2025 as the period of the Great Revelation. And it isn't just isolated magnetic anomalies. In the last 6 months, satellites from NASA and ESA have detected inexplicable changes in the flow of underground water running beneath the Egyptian desert. The legendary underground river Cayce mentioned in his readings, the one he said would awaken when the records were revealed, seems to be changing its course for the first time in thousands of years. Geologists who have analyzed satellite images confirm that areas in the desert that have been dry for millennia are suddenly showing perfectly circular patterns of vegetation growth, as if something below the surface were triggering life. When seen from above, these circles form geometric patterns exactly like those found in ancient inscriptions at the Edfu Temple. Inscriptions that talk about the awakening of dormant seeds when the cycle is complete. What's even more intriguing is that soil samples from these areas have shown mineral compositions that have never been documented before, with electrical conductivity properties that defy our current understanding of geology. It's like the very soil is transforming, admitted Dr. Aisha Kadem, a geochemist from Cairo University, before she was mysteriously removed from her position just a few days later. Coincidence? Hardly, especially when you add in the equally strange weather events happening in the area. For the first time in centuries, consistent rain is falling over the Giza Plateau during the early morning hours, but only between 3 and 5 a.m., the same time Cayce described as the hour of the Guardian's awakening. There have also been reports from tourists and local residents, who had no prior knowledge of Cayce's prophecies, about bizarre experiences near the Sphinx. People describe feeling intense vibrations under their feet, hearing a low hum at specific spots around the monument, and, even more surprisingly, having the same recurring dream about a subterranean crystalline library, despite having no connection with one another. Cayce also spoke about the return of the sacred fire priests, which he said would happen at the same time as the chamber discovery. He wasn't referring to actual people, but to souls reincarnating specifically for this historic moment. Individuals who would feel an inexplicable urge to travel to Egypt during this precise period, without fully understanding why. What are we seeing today? There's an unprecedented influx of visitors to Egypt reporting exactly that feeling. People from all walks of life, different cultures and religions, suddenly feeling the urgent need to be in Egypt in 2025. Many have sold their belongings, quit their jobs, and completely reorganized their lives to answer this inner call, even if they can't explain it. Spontaneous meditation groups have popped up at dawn near Giza without any planning, without designated leaders, just people sharing the same inner drive. What's most surprising is that independent scientists have measured significant changes in the local electromagnetic fields during these group meditations, changes that can actually be documented. Dr. Helmut Schumann, a German physicist who specializes in terrestrial electromagnetic fields, confirmed after studying the site, something is happening that goes beyond what we currently understand. When these groups gather in a precise geometric formation, without prior instructions, the energy fields around the Sphinx change in measurable ways. It's as if they're triggering some kind of mechanism. Newly discovered inscriptions in the area, the ones the government is trying hard to hide, mention priests and priestesses gathered in a sacred circle to awaken the dormant knowledge. It's hard to imagine modern people, who are unaware of these ancient inscriptions, replicating precisely the patterns described in texts that have been sealed for thousands of years. Cayce also predicted that as we approach this period of revelations, there would be an acceleration of the human frequency. This term might have sounded mystical back in the 1930s, but it now finds surprising parallels in modern quantum science. He described how human DNA would start responding to intensified cosmic frequencies, activating genetic codes that have been dormant until now. In the past 3 years, geneticists have recorded inexplicable changes in specific genetic markers across the global population, a phenomenon they've dubbed accelerated evolutionary anomalies. These changes are most pronounced in people who report expanded states of consciousness, prophetic visions, and unexplainable connections to ancient wisdom. Dr. Seiji Yamamoto, a geneticist at Tokyo's Genomic Research Institute, published a controversial study in February of this year about these changes, saying, "We are witnessing what appears to be a directed evolution of human consciousness." In 30 years of research, "I have never seen anything like this." A week later, his lab mysteriously lost funding and the study was pulled from scientific journals, though not before independent researchers around the world saved and preserved it. Even more extraordinary is how these genetic changes seem to line up with alterations in the human pineal gland, the one ancient traditions called the third eye, in which Cayce described as the receptor of cosmic knowledge when fully activated. Recent studies conducted secretly after institutional blockades have shown an inexplicable rise in natural DMT, dimethyltryptamine, levels in blood samples taken from people who spent time near the Sphinx. DMT, often referred to as the spiritual molecule, is normally produced in minute amounts by the human brain, usually only during near-death situations or deep meditation. Dr. Gabriela Sanchez, a neuroscientist who risked her career to continue this research independently, says the levels we're seeing just can't be explained by conventional science. It's as if something in the environment is prompting the human brain to produce amounts of DMT that would normally be impossible without external help. What's fascinating is that this phenomenon seems to intensify the closer people get to the exact spot where the secret chamber was detected. It's like there's a resonance field radiating out from that point, explains Dr. Sanchez. People who spend more than an hour in that specific area show significant changes not only in DMT levels, but also in brain wave patterns that have never before been documented. The most astounding part is the link between these new brain wave patterns and certain hieroglyphs recently discovered in chambers sealed for millennia. When scientists used advanced imaging technology to analyze some of these symbols, they found that they were almost identical to the new brain wave patterns, almost as if the ancient Egyptians had already mapped states of consciousness that we are only now beginning to rediscover. This brings us to a fundamental question. What if what we're witnessing isn't just an archaeological discovery, but the unfolding of a carefully planned blueprint by an advanced civilization that knew exactly when and how humanity would be ready for this leap in evolution? Cayce spoke at length about the crystal technology to be found in this chamber. Not just jewels or ornaments, but functional devices using crystal properties that modern science only started to understand in recent decades. He described crystals that could store information, transmit energy wirelessly, and even alter fields of consciousness. In 2022, quantum physicists demonstrated that certain crystals can actually store unimaginable amounts of information at a quantum level, a technology we are just beginning to develop. Imagine what it would mean if we discovered that an ancient civilization had already mastered this technology and left detailed instructions on how to use it. Informants who worked on the early digs confirmed that among the artifacts found in the chamber was a perfectly geometric crystalline structure that, when exposed to direct sunlight, emitted measurable frequencies that changed the molecular structure of nearby water. One engineer who worked on the site before the military lockdown confided, "It wasn't just a beautiful crystal. It was a machine, a technology, and it actually worked." Cayce also predicted that at the same time as these discoveries, there would be changes in the waters of the Great River, referring to the Nile. Over the past 8 months, hydrologists have documented inexplicable changes in the chemical makeup of the Nile, right in the Giza area. The water in this specific stretch has shown anomalous properties, including a higher electrical conductivity and a molecular structure that scientists describe as more ordered than any naturally occurring water. Samples of this water, when tested in controlled experiments before being banned, produced notable effects in volunteers. These included a measurable boost in pineal gland activity, faster brain hemisphere synchronization, and, even more remarkably, consistent reports of ancestral memories, vivid recollections of life in ancient Egypt that participants couldn't have known about otherwise. All these phenomena seem to point to what Cayce described as the reunification of divided knowledge, a moment when science and spirituality, instead of clashing, will show themselves to be two sides of the same coin. When the records are unveiled, he once said, the separation between science and spirit will vanish because ancient knowledge will demonstrate that they are one and the same. What we are seeing right now is exactly that convergence. Quantum physicists are beginning to talk about things in terms that would have once been called mystical. Neuroscientists are finding that deep meditative states produce measurable changes in the brain that make it easier to access knowledge that transcends conventional limits of space and time. And archaeologists are uncovering evidence that ancient civilizations understood these principles on a level that challenges our conventional story of evolution. It's no longer about believing in something mystical or esoteric, says Dr. Jonathan Wells, a theoretical physicist who left a prestigious post to independently study these phenomena. We're talking about data that is measurable, verifiable, and reproducible, a data set that simply doesn't fit into our current worldview. The only logical conclusion is that our understanding is incomplete. Perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of these revelations is their perfect cosmic timing. Astronomers have confirmed that in August 2025, less than 3 months from now, a unique planetary alignment will occur that hasn't been seen in over 13,000 years. This alignment was detailed in recently translated inscriptions from the Dendera Temple as the moment when the portals open and knowledge returns. Coincidentally, or maybe not, this is exactly the month Cayce predicted the full activation of the records and the beginning of a new era of expanded understanding for humanity. He explained exactly how certain points on the planet, with the Sphinx as the central one, would act as amplifiers during this alignment, boosting our ability to tap into dimensions of consciousness that were previously inaccessible. What we're witnessing isn't just a series of coincidences. It's the culmination of a cosmic plan that's been meticulously set in motion for millennia. As Cayce said, when the time is right, those with open hearts will recognize the signs and gather in sacred places to witness the awakening. That's why, in recent months, people from every corner of the globe have felt an inexplicable call to meditate together at 5:55 in the morning local time. This has created an unbroken wave of focused consciousness circling the planet.